hello.
Hello, Brian. And hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 54 of the Casual Movie Club. And if you couldn't tell, Brian is back here in the studio.
Yay.
All
Clap,
right.
clap, 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 clap.
Brian's got his beverage in his hand, so he's gonna refrain from doing the clapping. But Brian, it is good to see you back in the studio. Welcome back.
Thanks. Good to be back.
Yeah.
Missed it.
And we missed you.
Yeah.
We missed you. Yeah. So this week was a pretty interesting movie. One of my I would say it's like right below the cusp of favorites. You know, it's a movie that I've seen quite a bit growing up. My mother was a doctor, so she was really into this movie. Wait, what movie are you talking about? Because it's a surprise movie. We're talking about a movie from 1978 called Coma. And this movie, actually, the only real stars in it that may be well known are Michael Douglas and Rip Torn, and the female lead, Genevieve Bujold, is actually she's a Canadian actress, not super well known, but a very talented actress nonetheless. Came out in 1978. Basically, it's a story of a hospital that produces quite a few patients that come out in comas from strange causes, and there's a kind of a reasoning behind that, which I'm not going to give away too much, even though we'll probably give stuff away on the podcast, but hey, that's what we do. Wait, where are my manners?
Where are they?
Brian, what'd you think of the movie? Because your poker face was so on point, I was dying to ask you while, mid-watch, what you thought of it.
It was pretty good. It was pretty good. It was a long crescendo into being interesting.
Okay.
We'll get into some of that when we get to the numbers, but it took a while for me to get into it. It also took a while for me to understand what was happening.
Okay.
Yeah, but once it got rolling, once like things started making sense, I enjoyed it.
Cool. Yeah, and actually, it's funny because I was thinking about asking you, like, are you following what's happening, or but I figured I would just leave you to it and kind of let you watch it and experience it as a first time watcher, because I'm assuming it is your first time watching the movie, right?
Yeah, I've neto seen this before.
Had you heard of it?
I had not heard of it. Actually, when this first started, I thought this was going to be a pandemic or one of those other the China syndrome or something like that. I thought it was going to be one of those other 70s or 80s like.
Okay. I thought you might have been thinking of Contagion.
Contagion is another one. I couldn't think of the name of that movie, but I was thinking of the gist of it.
You think we should do that one next week because of the whole Wuhan coronavirus thing?
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
All right, cool. Next week, Contagion. There you go. 3 minutes into the podcast, we picked our next movie. We haven't even talked about this one yet. But yeah. So overall, it got your seal of approval.
Yeah, seal of approval. I mean, it had its faults. The acting was pretty solid. The dialogue was a little dated, though. I wasn't really a big fan of all some of the dialogue, and by that I mean not the medical jargon. Medical jargon was on point. I
love the medical jargon.
It was more like the interactions between characters and things.
Yeah. I mean, but granted, this movie did come out in 1978, and we're watching it in 2020.
2020, baby.
Yeah. So we're 42 years.
Oh,
the movie's 42 years old.
Yeah.
So, I totally get that the dialogue was a little dated, but
it holds up.
It does. It holds up because that's how people talked at the time, or that's what it was like at the time.
Yeah, full of misogyny.
Oh God. I have notes about that.
Yeah. That's one of my first notes.
Dr. Harris is a creep. That's actually one of the things I wrote in there was like, Dr. Harris is such a creep.
I didn't think he was a creep, at least not until the end.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a thing to ask you.
Oh, okay.
Have you, and it's not necessarily a movie-related thing, but have you ever had any surgeries?
Yes.
Okay, so did this movie remind you of that, or what did this take you back to those moments of when you were going in for surgeries, or
Not
were they
at
when
all.
you were young?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I had some oral surgery. I had my wisdom teeth taken out.
Oh, I remember that. I have video of
yes,
you,
you do.
delirious, which I got to see if I can find that. That'd be fun to watch.
I have it. It's on my phone.
Oh, I shot it with your phone, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, okay.
You should have a copy of it anyway. But so I had
send it to me.
Yeah, I had that. So I was under anesthesia for that, and then I had skin graft surgery.
Oh wow.
About 12 years ago or something like that for an accident I was in.
Okay.
But so I only like 2 real major surgeries that I've had.
Okay.
But I never really feared going into the coma. I never really feared anything.
Yeah.
At all going into it.
Yeah, and when everything kind of clicked, after when she found the device and all that stuff. I mean, would you say that was kind of the moment where everything kind of started making sense, or
No.
or okay?
No.
When was that moment for you?
Near the end, honestly, when she got to the Jefferson Institute.
Okay.
And it was obvious that when they started auctioning off the organs,
yes.
and I was like, oh, of course, rich people.
Yep.
Rich people, which actually reminded me of a science fiction story, which turned into a movie with Ewan McGregor.
Okay.
The Island. I think Scarlett Johansson and Ewan McGregor.
Okay.
It was Michael Clark Duncan, one of his last films.
Yeah.
Also, they essentially make clones of people,
Ooh.
and the clones are harvested for the organs of the original person.
Oh, that's
and
interesting.
The clones become sentient, or they realize what's going on.
Yeah.
And they try to escape. They do escape.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's a good movie. That came out like early 2000s, but it was originally like a sci-fi short story.
Okay.
From like the 70s, 80s.
Okay. One thing I got to say, because I'm definitely a Michael Crichton fan. I love Michael Crichton's writing. I love Jurassic Park. I'm getting more into audiobooks, because I for whatever reason I can't sit and read a book. I don't know why, but I get like a headache if I read for too long. But interestingly enough, I was able to read. I read this book. Tangent for a second. Have you heard of this book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck?
I recognize the title, yes.
Okay. I forget the guy that wrote it, but it's a great book. It's kind of like a current age self-help book, and it kind of teaches you how not to give a fuck about things. It's hard to really explain it any other way than that, but it's a great book. Highly recommend it. But I was able to read that. It might have just been because maybe the print was a little larger. Maybe I just need to read larger print books or something. But I have been getting into audiobooks, and specifically Michael Crichton audiobooks. So I just listened to Airframe, which was really good.
I never heard that.
Yeah, apparently they made a movie and never released it, or they shot a bunch of stuff with Sigourney Weaver as the lead in that, but they never released it. Which is weird because it's a great movie. It's a great story.
Great story.
But he did that. He did Jurassic Park, another movie I like. It's called The Andromeda Strain. It's from kind of the same time period, the 70s-ish. Was done in the 70s. But what I like about Michael Crichton is his level of technical detail. In The Andromeda Strain, there's a lot of like you were saying, medical jargon. There's a lot of science jargon in that one. All the medical jargon in this, this movie. A lot of the stuff in Jurassic Park. There's the Michael Crichton is
ER.
What's that?
ER also.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very detail oriented, and I really like that. Maybe it might just be my taste, but I really like that element of it. It adds a bit of realism to it, and then we'll talk about this more in the numbers, but I like how in even the presentation factor, like they were in an operating room and they didn't just have their hands inside of something doing something. Like you saw them put suction, and then you saw red goo go through the suction tube, so just the little bits of realism and that detail, I think, really add to the deliverance of the story.
Yeah, because imagine the amount of nurses, the amount of medical professionals watching films like this, and they'll appreciate it. But even lay people like me appreciate it too, because I've seen enough Scrubs and Grey's Anatomy and ER to recognize a lot of the terms that they throw around, and they're all legit. And I have a general idea of what they're talking about, but somebody who's in the field would actually like really appreciate it.
Right.
Like one of my buddies owns a karate school, right? And he teaches people various different styles of martial arts. So when he sees movies with fight scenes, he picks it apart. And he really appreciates the attention to detail of a really well choreographed fight scene. Yeah. So it's the same thing.
Yeah. And it's a lot like, kind of reminds me of last week when we were like Tina and I and you were ripping apart 47 Meters Down. Mm-hmm. Scuba diving movie, same kind of deal. Like we appreciate that attention to detail, even though the details are egregiously wrong.
Yeah.
The attention to detail really is nice. And I think it elevates it to a higher level than just being just enough to do the movie or the abstractness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think there's something about the realism of that too.
So I have a question for you.
Please.
Before we move on.
Yeah.
If you're in a relationship with somebody, right? Maybe you're not living together, but maybe you're comfortable enough to spend some time over their house, right?
Yeah.
If it comes down to you both coming home from work together and one of you wants to take a shower and then the other gets in the shower before you because like, well, I'm taking a shower now. Instead of fighting about it, wouldn't you just get in the shower with them?
Yes.
What the hell is the matter with Michael Douglas?
I mean, I agree with you, but I think that scene is interesting because I know the exact scene you're talking about. Instead of him bowing to her in a way, like her saying, go heat up dinner, instead of him just doing it, he's still standing up and doing the whole, well, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to do this, and kind of still trying to be the alpha in a way.
Sexist dick, though. He's just...
I agree.
Like, get me a beer. I'm going to take a shower. She's like, no, I'm taking a shower.
Get your own beer.
I want a shower, too. Get your own beer. He's like, oh, I guess I'll heat up dinner then. Yeah, bitch. Heat up dinner, Michael Douglas.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's funny because at first, and I was going to ask you this, did you think Michael Douglas was an asshole?
Yes, I did.
At first?
Throughout the whole film.
Really?
I thought he was an asshole, not taking her seriously. They didn't, and this may have been a detail that I missed, but they didn't, I couldn't get a gauge on how long they were dating. Maybe a few months, maybe a year. They were serious enough to be spending time over each other's house.
Right, and going away for the weekend and that whole thing. So, yeah, they were serious enough there. I want to say maybe when she was talking to Nancy Greenlee at the dance class, maybe she might have mentioned it, or like I think maybe Nancy might have said, "Oh, you guys have been together for so long," blah blah blah. But I agree with you. I don't remember how long they were together.
So, but besides that, Michael Douglas and Eve, I'm just gonna call her Susan.
Yeah.
They have a relationship, a personal relationship, but they also have a professional relationship, right? And
conflict of interest?
No. If anything, it should strengthen their professional relationship strengthens their personal and vice versa, right? So they should have
I would think in an ideal world, yeah.
A level of respect for one another.
Sure.
She's a second-year resident. She's no pushover. Even the head of the hospital says, I can't fire you because you're so good.
Right.
Why doesn't Michael Douglas take her seriously when she brings up these coma concerns?
Well, initially he doesn't, but then the second time she's talking about it, she says, oh, well, they were all done in OR 8. So he says, okay, let's go look. And then they finally go take a look. But even then, someone who's gone to great lengths to obfuscate these heinous crimes that are happening in OR number 8, they're not going to leave some stupid detail that anyone can pick up just by going and looking at the hoses attached to the wall and all that stuff. I mean,
yeah.
So, I mean, in a way, that scene was redundant, but also in a way it wasn't, because it was our first indication that Michael Douglas's character, I forget his name, but Michael Douglas's character is kind of thinking maybe there's something to this.
I didn't get that at all.
I did, though.
I picked the impression I got from him was that he was sick of her talking about it. He wanted her to lay off of it, and he was humoring her. He wasn't taking her seriously. He was humoring her.
But I think that was the start of when he may have been thinking maybe there might be something to this. Not completely on board, but just maybe second guessing his she's full of it. You know what I mean?
I didn't believe that he took her seriously until the very end before her surgery.
Yes.
Before that, I thought he just thought she was full of it.
Yeah.
I don't believe he was talking to her mother. I believe that he was talking to George Harris.
Yeah.
The chief of medicine, the chief of the hospital, whatever.
Yeah, chief of surgery.
Yeah. I just don't. I don't believe he took her seriously, and it baffles me that you could have a romantic and a personal and a professional relationship with somebody for
however long,
maybe even 6 months,
right?
But not take them seriously,
yeah.
Especially somebody of her skill, of her caliber,
right?
Don't get it.
Yeah. Another thing that I thought was fucked up. Remember when she talked to the shrink, Dr. Moreland?
Yes.
And then 5 seconds later, you see Dr. Moreland telling Dr. Harris, everything that they talked about.
Which is hypocritical.
It's hypocritical, and I think it's confidentiality violation.
I think that's I thought the shrink broke the law, but
yes.
When I say hypocritical, it's because she went to go ask for the Coma records.
Right.
And then they're like, no, we can't do that. It's like, oh, yeah, but give me the Coma records. Like, I can't do that. Oh, but give me the Coma records. It's like, okay, here are the Coma records. I didn't see a problem with that. The explanation that Harris gave her, I didn't see the validity of that.
I think what Harris was talking about,
he said there was privacy concerns.
There is privacy concerns for just any old person to go down to the computer lab and say, print me out a list of everyone that had a coma in the last 12 months.
She's not any old person.
Right. But he did say, or he was either him or Michael Douglas's character, that you can't just go get records without authorization. So there's like a chain of command you have to follow in order to get permission to go get those records.
I can see that.
So I think the fact that she broke protocol and just went right to the source instead of maybe going to her supervisor or maybe to Dr. Harris or whatever and saying, hey, I want to get these records of this, that, and the other thing, getting their permission, then putting in the request for it or something. So it was a procedural violation, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because there's always procedures with this shit. So did you catch the cameos in this?
Ed Harris is the only person I recognized.
You didn't see Tom Selleck?
Oh, Tom Selleck. Yeah, I recognized Tom Selleck right away, but it was the 70s and 80s, right? Like, Tom Selleck was everywhere.
Yeah.
So I noticed Tom Selleck, and I appreciated his performance. He was cracking wise.
Yep.
Trying to get his surgery done sooner.
Right. What did you think of their little vacation montage? Because I put one of my notes in here that I wrote, vacation montage. Can't decide if it's cheesy or if it's fine.
I didn't like it. I thought the score at that point was terrible.
Really?
I thought it was awful. I hated the music there. Them running around the beach, I mean, they're just like playing around. They're going on drives. They're having sex in hotel rooms and stuff. I thought it was fine. It's just the score distracted me from it. I hated the soundtrack to their little vacation. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't mean to like monopolize the I don't want to feel like I'm interviewing you. What are some of your notes? Because I've got a whole bunch, but
well, I just have a lot of questions.
Okay.
Namely, the families of these people who are suddenly going into comas. They're going in for standard procedures.
Right.
The guy's going in for knee surgery. The girl's going in for
the DNC,
whatever that is.
I kind of know what it is, but it's something where it's like a first trimester abortion type thing.
because they had her up in stirrups and stuff. Right. Okay, so my thing is, where's the follow-up on these people? These people are all going in comas. Are their families just accepting it? Is no one else looking into this? It's crazy to me that this one hospital, one of the biggest hospitals in the city on the East Coast even, is having all these comas going on, and only one doctor notices this pattern because one of them happens to be her friend. Like, what about the friend's family?
Yeah.
The girl who was going in for the trimester thing. What about her husband or her family or her boyfriend or whoever it was like that?
Well, yeah, and they said that they were doing the DNC so that her husband wouldn't know she was pregnant. So then how do they explain to the husband, your wife now is in a coma? Because
she came in for a procedure that she was hiding from you, but she died or went into a coma under our watch.
Right.
It
definitely leaves some questions there for sure.
Yeah.
I might read or listen to this book to see how much more detail is in the book.
Yeah.
Because I definitely enjoyed the storyline.
I did too. It was a great story.
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna look into the book here and see if
I thought it was a little slow though.
I was gonna ask you. Did you feel like it moved slow? Because one of the things I wrote in my notes was I liked how it seemed like it moved fast, but maybe the sort of the better explanation to that is, or like I liked that it moved fast, but some of the sequences may have been slow.
Here's something else. We've got this hitman who kills the maintenance guy. Why is the maintenance guy killed? Because he was seen talking to Susan?
Yes. Because, and you remember, at that moment, the maintenance guy was like fixing a light switch or something, and then Susan is talking to him, and then George Harris walks up on her in that conversation, and then the maintenance guy leaves. And that's when he says, "Oh, did you have a good weekend?" Blah blah blah. So we don't know how much of that he overheard. We could theorize that he overheard the maintenance guy because the maintenance guy was saying, "Come down to maintenance. I know how it works. I know what they're doing. I'll show it to you."
Right.
So then, in theory, that's your first indication. If you're really grabbing her details and everything, you could think that Harris is dirty because after that altercation, that's when the maintenance guy gets killed.
And it's the next scene.
Right.
It's the next scene.
Right.
And the hitman says, "Oh, they told me to make it look like an accident."
Right.
So, to me, it sounds like that this hit has been put out on this maintenance guy for a while now. It wasn't because of him talking to Susan. It was something else.
I don't know. I think it was pretty clear from that he was talking to Susan, but maybe, again, it may just be the fact that I've seen the movie a few times.
Yeah, it's just it follows that the hitman comes and takes him out. I've got a lot on this hitman.
Yeah.
BT Dubs.
Yeah,
he's got a lot on. It follows that it's because the maintenance guy was talking to Susan, but it's literally the next scene. Susan takes off her scrubs, and goes to find the maintenance guy, and it's the hitman is already down there, like, they told me to make it look like an accident, but she was literally just upstairs.
Well, the thing is, we don't know how much time passed during those two moments, because in theory, when she was up there, with all the other doctors and when she was talking to the maintenance man, that could have been any time. That could have been the morning, could have been the afternoon, whatever. And then the next thing you see is her going down to the maintenance area. So I think if we saw some sort of element of how much time had passed in between those two scenes, it might have connected that a little bit better.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
The other thing about the hitman though is he's running around chasing Susan.
Mm-hmm.
He breaks the anatomy the anatomy door window. Chases her through the auditorium. She traps him in the body freezer. Right. Locks the door. Why didn't she call the cops? Like, don't go see Michael Douglas. Find a phone. Call the cops. So you have him trapped in the corpse locker.
Right.
Go and get him.
Yeah.
But no, she goes to see Michael Douglas.
Right.
Now all that's well and good.
Right.
But what happens with the hitman? Does somebody come and let him out? We never see him again.
Yeah.
So this guy is trapped in the corpse closet in the freezer
under a bunch of cadavers. Yeah.
Like, what happens with him?
Which, by the way, I thought that was like when I was younger and I saw this movie, seeing all the bodies being held up by the clamps on their heads was fucked up.
That was a little gross to me too.
Yeah.
So do you? I wanted to ask you. I took a note about this. Did you recognize the type of pistol the type of handgun the hitman was carrying?
He had a suppressed 1911.
That was a suppressed 1911.
Yep.
That didn't look like much of a suppressor to me.
It was a very small suppressor. I'd have to go back and look at it again, but the sound effect they used was a quote movie suppressed gun, which, just to go off on a brief firearms tangent, if you've shot a suppressed firearm before, right?
No.
At the range?
No.
Oh, okay. It does not, if you think about when you've seen it in a movie, they usually have like a pew, pew, kind of like a sound effect.
Yeah.
It doesn't make that sound effect.
It's more of a muffled.
It's more of like a sharp click. If I don't know if I can't do one with my voice, but it's if you really want to know what it sounds like, don't Google or go on YouTube to find out the sound of a suppressed firearm.
Why?
I'm going to tell you why. Because most of the time you're going to find one of those pew pew, sound effects. If you want to go on YouTube and look for someone doing a review of a suppressed firearm, not silencer, suppressed, or like look up suppressor, because when you see them firing the gun, you'll hear it's a loud, thick click, if that makes sense. Or go to your local range, see if they have suppressed firearms to rent, because you can, at our range up here, you can shoot suppressed firearms. They have 5 or 6 different suppressed firearms. So anyway, It looked like a 1911. It was a chrome-plated 1911 with a small suppressor on it.
Is there a thing as a silencer? Is that a thing?
Silencer and suppressor are the same thing.
They're the same thing.
Yep, and they are perfectly legal.
Yeah, it's like the difference between a magazine and a clip.
Well, a magazine is what you put rounds into and put into your gun. A clip is what you put to hold papers together. I personally don't care, being a gun enthusiast. If you talk to a lot of passionate gun enthusiasts and you call a magazine a clip, they will give you shit for it.
Yeah, they give me shit. I'm still gonna call it a clip.
You can do whatever you want, man.
That's all I have on the Hitman.
Rip Torn's character's scowl game was on point.
That was the anesthesiologist, right?
The head of anesthesia, yeah. Rip Torn. He had a scowl on his face the entire movie.
Yeah.
I just thought that was funny. Let's see. Do I have anything else?
I wrote down the score got better around the chase scene.
Agreed. I love the piano stuff.
Yes.
That mystery suspense piano music is cool. Yeah. Let me ask you something. Do you remember after Susan's ordeal with the bodies and everything, it looks like she wakes up really abruptly? You remember that? Right before she went on the tour of the Jefferson Institute.
It's like she woke up like she was having a nightmare?
Yeah. So it makes me wonder if any of that was real or if it was a nightmare.
I don't remember the follow-up to that, though.
Because she woke up.
I thought she went right to Michael Douglas.
No. So she had the experience with the bodies and everything. She locked the hitman in the freezer. Then she was freaking out. Then she went to Michael Douglas. She was laying down on the bed. Michael Douglas claimed to be on the phone with her mom. She ran. She left. Went home. Then you see her wake up like she was having a nightmare. Then she went to the Jefferson Institute. So it makes me wonder, or maybe that's put in there as to frame some doubt. Was any of that real? Was any of that a bad dream? Or did she just pass out when she got home and wake up suddenly?
I'm more inclined to believe pass out and wake up suddenly, because this doesn't seem to be the type of movie to put that kind of doubt in there.
Right.
Yeah, dream sequences and stuff didn't seem to be the...
Right, because it points to the whole, you never see the hitman again, you never hear about the hitman again, having the bodies stored with, being held up by their head seems really odd, so some of that could have been a nightmare. Maybe she could have imagined the whole hitman thing, because if you think about it, the first instance of the hitman, he's just standing over, not even running after her, but she's like beating her car up and crying on top of her car and stuff.
Yeah.
The hitman's never running after her. So like this whole hitman thing could be a figment of her imagination.
Well, he did run up to her in the subway car. He couldn't get into the subway at the same in time, but I can see that. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
She could be
imagining the
hitman, even though all this other stuff is really happening.
Well, I mean, the maintenance guy is dead.
Right. That's true. But she never sees the hitman at the maintenance guy, because she just comes down and looks at the maintenance guy getting electrocuted.
Yeah, she should have seen him. I mean, but
he kind of faded back into the shadows.
He did, but maintenance guy was pointing with his last breath.
Yeah. So I mean, that's an unsolved mystery.
Pretty good theory.
Yeah. You want to do numbers?
Yeah. Well, the only other thing I have is why were these patients up on strings? I know they said that they could do more without beds, and they can pack more.
Right. It was mainly to combat bed sores.
Yeah.
Because these patients were comatose. There was no need to. Putting them on beds would be extra work, because they'd have to move them and clean them and all that stuff. But suspending them from the ceiling, although it looks weird, seemed to be effective.
Yeah, but imagine the smell. All those bodies in the room, they're still alive.
Yeah.
Right? So they still perspire. They're still shedding their skin. Their hair still grows.
And the room is 94 degrees.
Yeah. So
the smell must be really weird, but there's an ultraviolet.
They never considered the smell.
I mean, that freaky nurse lady was saying there was some sort of ultraviolet bio something that might be filtering some of that out, and I would assume they clean them.
Yeah, I probably lost some of those details in there.
Yeah.
Just taking notes.
What did you think of that? Just the visual of seeing that room full of 50 people hanging at various heights. What did you think of that visual?
It was cool. I liked it.
Yeah. I really liked the visual of the outside of that building.
The building was really creepy. It reminded me of like a prison or something.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, I was looking around. That building was actually used to be the Xerox headquarters, and now it is the Stride-Rite shoe company headquarters.
Xerox in California?
No, in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts?
Yeah, it was filmed in Massachusetts.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
Well, what did you think of the ending?
I loved it.
Did you think it was too abrupt?
No.
Like, she woke up, Michael Douglas was like, "It's okay, baby, I'm here for you," and then...
Because he confirmed all of her suspicions. So, he saved her life because he shut off that radio that was, feeding the bad gas in there.
Yeah.
And, spoiler alert. And then, saved her life and everything. And then, we didn't really need to see anything else after that, because we saw confirmed all of her crazy, antics and everything. The guy behind it got arrested, and I liked how they did it, because they just shut the lights off while the doctor was in the room and leaning up against there, and he kind of threw his hat away, and that's when they shut the lights off. Like I thought it was cool.
Cool.
Numbers,
baby.
Numbers like the OR number 8. We have our lovely numbers for all of you lovely people. And if you go on our website, casualmovieclub.com, click on the leaderboard button, which, look at that. It's actually right next to some other buttons.
Oh, what buttons are those?
Like Patreon. If you want to give us a hand by throwing a couple of bucks or as many bucks as you'd like, and I mean dollars, not actual, like, deer, but, give us some cash every month if you want to help us out by giving, as low as $1 or as much as you like. Help us keep the lights on, keep the podcast recording, keep the hosting up, and all that good stuff. You can click on the Patreon button, and you do get some perks. The more you give, the more you get. So check that out. We'd love to have your help there. Also, check out our merchandise by clicking the merch button, and you can get things like phone cases. I think you can get like shirts and other fun
Pens,
stuff,
pencils.
mugs.
Yeah.
Lots of fun stuff. So check out the merch and rep your favorite movie podcast. And then, of course, there's the leaderboard. So leaderboard is where we put our movies that we watch and rate for your listening pleasure. And we have 6 different criteria that we use to rate them with. Things like the acting. How well did the actors convey the story? How believable were they? Did we feel like we were just watching people reading lines, or were we taken into the story? How well was that dialogue written that they were reading or that they were speaking? Was it a good story? Was it believable and that sort of thing? What about the presentation, Brian?
How was the editing and visual effects? Were there too much? Were they not enough? How was the green screen? And then next is music and sound. The soundtrack as a whole. How were the sound effects? How was the score? How was the music, etc.?
The goodies. The goodies. All those goodies for your ears.
And then the next category is uniqueness. What's that about, John?
Has this movie been done before? Is it something we've seen around that time or earlier? Because movies that come after this don't count. And then, of course, the engagement factor. Does this movie keep you engaged? Are you sitting on the edge of your seat? Are you dying to know what Dr. Susan Wheeler is going to discover next? Or would you rather be watching random weird videos on TikTok? I don't even have the TikTok app installed on my phone.
TikTok's pretty fun.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Oh, okay.
Did you ever get involved with Vine?
A little bit.
It's like Vine, but better.
Oh, okay. Anyway, enough of that tangent. Brian, why don't you kick it off with acting? What did you think of the acting in this movie?
So we touched on a little bit earlier. I liked all the performances. There was... it was really believable. Susan, despite being hysterical once or twice, I really thought she put in a solid performance. I love Rip Torn. I loved Michael Douglas. I thought everybody was great in it. Nothing really blew my hair back, though. I think it was pretty standard fare for the type of movie it is and the time frame it came out. So I'm going to give the acting a 3 even.
Okay. So I agree with a lot of what you said. I'm actually giving the acting a 4 because I really liked... I thought the chemistry between Michael Douglas and Genevieve Bujold was actually really solid. You know, the fact that they were two doctors, very analytical people. You know, I thought Michael Douglas played the role he was written very well. I thought the chemistry between even all of the other characters, you know, the chemistry between, you know, Genevieve Bujold and Dr. Harris. Also, you know, Rip Torn's character was kind of this kind of outcast guy that people were kind of afraid of. I just think that because the story explained these folks' roles and who they and their characters very well, I thought the actors portrayed them in a good way.
I'd be interested to hear your take after you read the book.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of that, I'm also giving the script a 4 because I really liked I love the medical jargon. You know, honestly, if I was maybe 5 or 10 years younger, I would definitely go to medical school. You know, I don't think I can survive medical school. I don't even think I could afford medical school, but being a doctor always seems to be very, very fascinating to me. But I love the fact that Michael Crichton got so much of that medical jargon in there, and it was authentic. It was legit. It wasn't fake stuff. It wasn't made up. It wasn't, you know, it was relevant, you know, which I thought was such a nice attention to detail. So, you know, I agree with you on the dialogue thing, but I'm still going to give them a good score because it was how they talked at the time. You know, it was relevant for the time period that it came out. So, yeah, it's 4 for script for me.
Yeah, the conversation with Susan and like the nerdy doctor when she was trying to get away from the hitman, and he stopped and talked to a nurse, I suppose, on how to treat a patient.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, give him like 5 cc's of this." All right, well, give him 10 cc's. Well, he's on oxygen or air. Well, if it's on air, blah 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 blah. Like that was great. I loved hearing all of that while you have the hitman menacingly pacing back and forth in the background.
Yeah,
it was fantastic. For me, the script, I thought the dialogue was really, really well written. My complaints about it, or really, it's not how the dialogue was written. It was just mainly about how Michael Douglas was treating Susan, how he treated her. And yeah, it was at the time and blah 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 blah. But I still thought he was a dick. But a well-written dick. I loved the story. I loved it. So I'm giving the script a 4 even.
Awesome. Very cool. How about presentation? What'd you think of the look?
Fantastic, dude. It's a great thriller. It's a great mystery story. And it was there was a chase scene in there. There's a couple of chase scenes in there. It was the action was appropriate for the level of expertise of the people involved. I thought it was really well done. There weren't really any effects to speak of unless we're talking about the scene with the bodies hanging. So I thought it was really, really cool. I give it 4.
Cool. All right. I was struggling with this because I agree with everything you said. There really weren't any effects, so to speak, except for, you know, a little bit with the gun going off and everything. But I mean, it wasn't certainly not a firearms heavy movie by any means. You know, I loved a lot of the visuals, and you know, that's where I think this movie shined. The compositions, the shot compositions, the camera work, but also just the sets and the technical aspect of the medical side of things, you know. So I really liked that, and especially the attention to detail, like I mentioned earlier, when they were, you know, applying suction during a surgery, you actually saw some red little bits coming out through the suction hose. So it's not like they were just saying, you know, using a fake tool thing and saying, oh, suction, and putting a sound effect in. They showed actual suction. So those little tiny details, I think, really compounded into just adding that extra bit of realism to the presentation. And again, I liked the visuals, and I loved that sort of scary building they used for the Jefferson Institute. So presentation is going to be a 4.5 for me.
Nice.
Music and sound, I liked the fact that they used music kind of sparingly in this. And one of the little IMDb trivia things says that you don't actually hear any score until about 40-something minutes into the movie.
Is that the date? Is the first time we hear a score when they go on a date?
Maybe. I don't know specifically when it was, but I agree with you. The music for the date that, you know, the long weekend they spent together was cheesy at best. Cheesy. Yeah. And maybe the music is what influenced my question of wondering why it was so cheesy. But music and sounds a 3.75. No, it's a 4 for me because I really liked the chase scene, kind of like you know, aggressive piano type of stuff. I really think it just lended well to what was going on.
So I was thinking about this as we were wrapping up the movie. I had ended my scoring and we were about to come up here, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna go with this score. Music and sound is a 2 for me. But I was thinking about it before we were getting started. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do my take backsies before we even start the show.
Okay.
So I raised music and sound up to a 3, and primarily on the strength of the chase scene at the end where she's in the facility.
Okay.
And the way that she got out of the facility, and just the music added tension that was lacking.
Okay, that's cool. And then how about uniqueness? What did you think of the uniqueness factor?
Generally unique. It's, there's not a lot of medical stuff that I've seen pre-1980, except if you talk about like Ambulance, like the TV show, or but it's a pretty
Ambulance
unique,
or Emergency?
Emergency. That's what I'm thinking of. Emergency. Pretty unique for what it is. Michael Douglas. It's a Michael Douglas film, and it feels like a Michael Douglas film, even though he's not in it very much.
Yeah.
It felt like Disclosure. It felt like the China Syndrome. It felt like Contagion. I think Contagion may have been 70, 79 or 80.
Contagion was like 2000 something, unless there was another movie called Contagion.
I'm thinking there's another movie. There's like an older movie that maybe.
Okay.
And anyway, beating around the bush. Generally unique. I'm giving it a 3 even.
Okay. It's 4.25 for uniqueness for me. Because I agree with just about everything you said, and I think, this may be a topic for another discussion, but I think maybe my weighting might be just different than your weighting for how you come up with your scores. But, I think it is unique. It's the storyline is certainly unique, especially, using from a scientific standpoint, using carbon monoxide to induce comas, and then harvesting the organs for sale in the black market. Like it's brilliant. I think it's very well written. It's unique for sure. Do I think that would deserve a 5? I don't know, because I'm kind of torn now, because I can't think of anything medical that came out before that. In terms of movies, because I don't think TV shows count.
I guess not.
Yeah, I can't think of anything medical specifically that came out around 1978 or earlier. I can't think of anything that was sort of deeply rooted in hospital politics, to the point where, you know what? I'm throwing uniqueness at a 5. Because I think this is unique. Engagement factor for me. I'm going to take into account the fact that I have seen this movie a number of times, and I'm going to rate my engagement factor based on kind of what I think a first-time a first-time watcher might experience. It's going to be a 4 for engagement, because I think there are a lot of tension moments that certainly leave you wanting to know what happens, but also some of those slower sequences may take you out a little tiny bit. But there's a lot of cuts and a lot of edits and a lot of speed in the transitions between sections of the movies, despite some that might go slower. So I think there's still a good engagement factor there for someone that may have never seen it before, which we're about to talk to somebody that has never seen it before. Brian, what did you think of the engagement factor?
I really wasn't too engaged.
Really?
Yeah, I could have dipped in and out of this could be a nap movie for me, or a background movie.
Interesting.
Now that I know what is the big reveal, I really think I could have watched the first maybe half hour of the movie where they establish the problem. There's all these comas happening, and then we could just smash cut ahead to where she infiltrates the Jefferson Institute, and then finds out about the auctioning off. Everything in between was good, but it didn't really draw me in. I could have, and I didn't, but I really could have watched this movie with my phone. Just like back and forth on Twitter and Instagram and stuff.
Interesting.
I was taking a lot of notes on it, but I really didn't need to be as engaged as I was. I liked the movie, but it didn't really pull me in.
Interesting.
So it's a 2.
Wow. Okay. That's really interesting.
Okay. I would recommend this movie, by the way. I bought it. I will watch it again, but it's going to absolutely be a background movie. It's not something that really pulls me in. It's a thriller, but I wasn't really thrilled watching it.
Interesting. Okay, well, before we lock him in, is there anything you want to make any changes to? Because you still have your take backsies because you're changing your score before you say it on the podcast is not a take backsies.
Yeah.
So, do you have anything you want to change or adjust or maybe a little more? Well, I'm not going to say anything, but do you want any change you want to make?
I stand by my engagement factor, but
that was the one I was hoping you were going to change.
I would bump up uniqueness by 0.5.
Okay, so 3.5 for uniqueness.
3.5, yeah.
I think that's cool. All right, and then I think for mine, I'm going to stick with what I've got because I feel solid about that. So, shall we lock them in? Are the numbers in?
The numbers are in.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and patients in and out of comas all over the world and in hospitals alike. Coma from 1978, starring Michael Douglas and Genevieve Bujold. The numbers go a little something like this. Acting 3.5, script 4, presentation 4.25, music and sound 3.5, uniqueness 4.25, engagement factor 3, for a total average of 3.75. Right above National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation and right below the Santa Claus.
Oh, that's splitting up the holiday movies.
It is. It's splitting up the holiday movies by putting them in a coma.
I like it.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, I feel good about that too.
Yeah. So we're going to kind of keep with the medical theme next week. We're going to do Contagion with the 2000s movie, Contagion.
Right. Yes.
Sort of in honor of or homage to or whatever, thanks to the Wuhan coronavirus. Which I'm just going to take a quick moment and just say, all the best, to those that are afflicted with this. I hope you recover and, hope everybody is okay with this virus. I know it's not something to make light of, and I don't want to make it sound like we're making light of it. But, certainly, all the best to everybody that's dealing with that.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
Zippity zoodah, zippity day.
My, oh, my. It's time to wrap it. Okay.
Time to wrap it up.
All right. If you guys can think of something more funny to say to zippity doodah, zippity a, tweet us at Casual Movie Club. And on that note, see you next time.
Bye.